Good morning, class. So will be a shorter lesson today because you have another class test. So let's get straight into it. You had for homework exercise 7.9. Okay, exercise 7.9. This was on page 7.9 was on page. Sorry? Just give me this to get the back to it. Say thanks. Sorry? 243. Yes, it is. Hang on. And I heard you. The first time I heard you. Let's go back to 7.8. Should be on the previous page. .2. Oh, I deleted 7.8. Alright, so let's just get the textbook open. Which page was that on, people? 7.8? 41. Thank you. Right, exercise 7.8, page 241. Any issues in the first column? Any issues in the first column? Which is numbers 1, 4, 7 and 10. Yes? Any problems with the second column, which is 2, 5, 8 and 11? Numbers 2, 5, 8 and 11? Nothing. And the last column, 3, 6, 9 or 12? But 9. Okay. So let's start with 9. So you got cos negative 225. So what do I do there? Add 360. Then you get cos 135. Is that correct? In which quadrant is 135 in? How do you get in the second quadrant? So it's cos 180 minus 45. Cos positive and negative in the second quadrant? Negative. Changes to? Doesn't change. Why? Because not busy with 90. So that is going to be a negative cos 45. Special triangle. So it's 45. So it's 1, 1 root 2. So cos is? What does cos stand for? Adjacent of hypotenuse. So it's 1 over root 2. Okay. No confusion there? Right, let's go to 7.9. The 7.9 you had to do the whole exercise. What did we have to do out of this? Number 1 and 2 is the first column. Any problems with number 1, the first column? J, okay. Anything else with the first column here? Do they have it like that? It's fine. That's good. Root 2 over 2 is the same as 1 over root 2. Yeah. That means rationalizing the denominator we did in term 1. Yeah. Right. But if we don't rationalize the denominator in this paper, we don't penalize. But in paper 1, namely question 1, we penalize. Okay. So J is the issue, no? Number 1, J. So you got cos negative 900 minus x. So what do I do? Add 360. So it's negative 900 plus 360. So there's 990. Gives us negative 3 plus 360, negative 270 plus 360 gives you 90. So in other words, this is the equivalent to cos 90 minus x. Which quadrant is that in? First quadrant. So is cos positive or negative? Positive, but changes to? Where did you go wrong? Who asked this question? Where did you go wrong?
The textbook says
Negative sign. The textbook is wrong. Okay. Any issues with number 2? The first column, number 2. E and C, okay? Just hang on. You're too fast. E, C, and G. Let's go to C. 2C. You got 10, 540 minus x times cos minus x times sine of 30. So 540, I subtract 360 from it, I get 180, not so? Yes. So that's the same as 180 minus x. Which quadrant is that in? Second. Is that positive or negative? So it's negative 10x times. Now this angle is negative. So what do? Add 360. So it now becomes 360 minus x. You understand? The 360 minus x in the fourth quadrant, cos is positive. So it's cos x times. Sine of 30 takes you to the special triangle. 1, 2, root 3. Sine of 30 is 1 over 2. Negative times a positive is negative. Tan can be written as what? Sin x over cos x times cos x over 1 times half. That cancels. So the answer is negative of sin x or negative sin x over 2. Who was this question? Me. Right. Where did you go wrong?
I didn't add 360 to the cos x.
So you just wrote negative cos x. There's a common made error, you're going to lose a mark all the time. Okay, so don't do that, please follow what I just did. Anyone else made a mistake on this question? Let's go to E. You got sine negative 360 plus x minus cos squared x over sine minus x. So what do I do now? Add 360. And I say 360. If I add 360, I just get simply sine x. Not so? Minus cos squared x over 360 minus x. In which quadrant is that in? Fourth quadrant. Sine positive or negative? So it's negative sine x. Or I could have changed this to a positive. Okay? Alright. So I get now sine x plus cos squared x over sine x. What's your LCM? Sine x. So So that denominator must multiply by sin x. Sin x, so it's going to be sin squared x plus. That must multiply by 1. It's going to be cos squared x. So what is sin squared x plus cos squared x? 1 over sin x. What was this question? Where did you go wrong? So you got up until here?
Yes.
Right. Please don't forget the LCM. Alright? And you retain that denominator. You only drop the denominator if it's an equation. You can drop the denominator. Go to G. Right, 360 minus x in which quadrant? 4. Sign positive, negative in quadrant 4. Negative. But because of the square it remains positive. Sin square x. So what I do is I add 360 there. So it becomes 360 minus x. Which quadrant is that in? Fourth quadrant. Cos positive, negative. Positive. Cos x times 360 minus. Which quadrant? Fourth quadrant. Cos positive, negative. Positive. Cos x. So what is that? Cos squared x. Sin squared x plus cos squared x is? What was this question? Where did you go wrong? This one here? So you wrote negative sin squared. Make a note there. You'll never get a square from a negative from a square. No? It will always be positive. Any other problems here? Right, for homework is the sums you haven't done yet. There's the remaining sums for homework. Let's go to number 3. Yo. You're talking too much there. Right, number 3. You have to do every alternate sum, not so?
Yes, sir.
So you have to do A, C, E, and G. No? Am I right?
Yes.
Any problems with A? B? No, C? E? Yes. Okay. Doesn't take a calculator away there. I think that last part's behind the calculator. Yes. Right. So let's look at E. So we got 2 sine 150 times sine 90 minus alpha times 10 negative 180 minus alpha. Right. This is the left hand side. Okay. So 2 remains 2 for now. Sine of 150, which quadrant is that in? All stations to Claremont. Sine of 150 is in the second quadrant. How do we get in the second quadrant? 180 minus 30 times 90 minus. What does that remind you of? Cofunction. 90 minus in which quadrant? First quadrant. Sign positive or negative? Positive. Changes to cos. Cos alpha times negative 180. What do I do there? Add 360. So that becomes 10 180 plus 10 alpha. Not so? No, 180 minus the tan is negative. Minus alpha. Right, 180 minus is in which quadrant? Second quadrant, sine positive or negative? Positive. Sine 30 times cos alpha times 180 minus, which quadrant is that in? First, yeah, second quadrant. Stand positive or negative? Negative. So, it's either you make sure you got the multiplication sign, then you write negative tan x. Otherwise, you can write it in front. Okay? Make sure, because sometimes this multiplication now becomes a subtraction sum. Okay? So the ultimate answer in this is going to be negative. So sine of 30, I need a special triangle. So it's 30. 1, 2, root 3. What is sine of 30? Half times cos alpha times tan can be written as what? Sine alpha over cos alpha. I wrote the x here, nice alpha. Now what? Half times 2 is 1. So it's negative. Cos alpha cancels cos alpha. Sine. What was this question? Which is equal to the right hand side. What was this question? Somebody must have asked. Am I doing this out on my own? I did that on my own. Who asked? Kelsey, yours? No. Oh my word. Okay. Yeah, I was asked before I do the question who asked this question. Right. I don't know, I may have a problem. I just like to know where you're going wrong. Right. That was E. G? Any problems with G?
No.
Then you have to do number 4. Not so. So I'm going to do number 4 for you. So homework is going to be the remainder of this whole exercise, okay? I know you guys didn't do 5, so please do 5 for homework. Alright? Right, so in number 4, the question says, if 61 cos beta minus 6 is equal to 0. So make cos beta the subject of the formula. So cos beta is equal to 60 over 61. Okay? Take a 60 over divided by 61. Cos of beta is acute. What does that mean? First quadrant. So we can draw that already in the first quadrant. So what does cos stand for? Choice over hypotenuse. So it's going to be 60, 61. So how do I get the opposite? You apply Pythagoras. It's going to be 61 squared is equal to 60 squared plus the opposite side squared. Not so. Bring that over. Becomes 61, 60 is 121 is 11. Huh?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that's going to be, the opposite is going to be 11. Okay, we applied Pythagoras. Alright. So let's look at the questions contained in this diagram. A. Tan of beta. You see, once we got all the sides of the triangle, then you can use sine, cos, tan as you like. Not so. So tan of beta, tan is opposite over adjacent, is 11 over 60. B. Sine of minus beta. So what's the first thing we do? We add 360 to it. All stations to claim on. Which quadrant is that in? Fourth quadrant. Sine positive or negative? So it's negative sine beta. Sinus, what does sine stand for? Opposite of hypotenuse. So it's negative 11 over 61. Let's look at C. C is sine of negative 270 plus beta. What do I do here? Add 360. But add 360 to negative 270, what do I get?
90.
So it's sine of 90 plus beta. Which quadrant is that in? Second quadrant. Is sine positive or negative? Positive. Changes to? Cos beta. And what does cos stand for? Adjacent over hypotenuse. D. Okay, let's pull this down a bit. D. This is sine 90 plus beta over sine 540 minus beta. So here I must subtract 360. Okay, in the denominator. So sine of 90 plus beta, which quadrant is that in? Second quadrant. Is sine positive or negative in the second quadrant? Positive. But changes to cos. It's cos beta over. But subtract 360, what do I get there? 180. Sine of 180 minus beta, which quadrant is that in? Second quadrant. Sine positive or negative? Positive. Sine beta. Now cos, what is cos? Adjacent of hypotenuse. So it's going to be 60 over 61. Must be divided by. You all agree that this is a divide sign here, divide line. No? Divided by sine, which is 11 over 61. Yes. So it's going to be 60 over 61, multiply by 61 over 11. Now what? 61's cancel. So it leaves you with 60 over 11. Okay? It's important to understand how to do the sum. It's worth a lot of marks in the exam. When you look at the sum alone, is 1. It's 3 on the first question. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 marks with the sum. Easy 11 marks people. Okay. And trig is the same like geometry. Besides being easy, it's something that must be practiced often. You see, we only do trigonometry when we're busy with trigonometry. You know what I'm saying? Like when we're busy with geometry, we're doing some algebra. Not so. When you're doing graphs, you're doing algebra. You guys understand? Whereas trigonometry, you're only doing trigonometry. Even you're using some laws of algebra and factorization and in trigonometry. But trigonometry rules itself is only done in trigonometry. Okay? So it's a section that must be continuously refreshed. Okay? So let's go on with our lives as we normally do. Now we're going to look at ratios in terms of a letter. Ratios in terms of a letter. That's your new heading. We're on page 244. Right, your subheading is ratios in terms of a liter. You write the example down. Okay, so if sine of 28 is equal to P, write the following in terms of P. So the first thing is I must set up a triangle representing this information. Okay, so 28 degrees is in which quadrant? Quadrant 1. So I don't need to draw this triangle on the Cartesian plane, on the cos side. Why? Because this part of the work, majority of the time, is in the first quadrant. However, if it's in quadrant 2, 3 or 4, then it will make sense to draw this in the quadrant. You guys understand? So since it's an acute angle, I don't need to draw it in the quadrant. Okay? So we go sine 28 degrees equals P. Right. Now you ask yourselves, okay? What does sine stand for? Opposite over hypotenuse. You all agree with that? So any confusion? If that was a cos, it would have been adjacent of hypotenuse. If this was a tan, it would have been opposite of adjacent. You guys understand? We draw a triangle. Is your 28 degrees? 90. Not so. This side is what? To the angle, relative to the angle? It's your opposite. So there goes what? P. Now put a P there. What is this relative to the angle? Hypotenuse. And what's your hypotenuse? 1. So looking at this, what do we need to work out? The adjacent side. Are you going to work out that adjacent side? Using Pythagoras. So use Pythagoras to work out your adjacent side. Let's see what you guys come up with. Right, so what's the answer for the adjacent side? 1 minus P, you all agree with that? It's wrong. One minus P squared. So how do we get that? Hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of your other two sides squared. We want the adjacent, so we take that over. So it's 1 minus p squared is equal to your adjacent side squared, the square root thereof. Can't take the square root because there's a negative between it. The adjacent side is 1 minus p squared. You all agree with that? What else can be calculated here at this point? The third angle. Not so. Work out what the third angle would be. 62 degrees. How do we get that? Angles in a triangle. So let's look at A. A, what's the question in A? Tan of 28. So work that out using that information that you just worked out there. So what does tan stand for? Opposite over adjacent. So it's going to be p over square root of 1 minus p squared. Let's look at B. Cos 62. Work that one out. What does cos stand for? Remember, this is now 62, eh? Cos stands for what? Adjacent of hypotenuse. So what's the adjacent here? P. So it's P over 1, which is P. You all agree with that? Let's look at C. C is cos of 208. Cos 208. Which quadrant is 208 in? Third quadrant. How do you get in the third quadrant? There's 180 plus. 180 plus what? Sorry? 28. So cos positive negative in the third quadrant? Negative cos 28. Cos of 28 is adjacent of hypotenuse. So it's this negative from that negative. Root 1 minus p squared over 1, which is negative 1 minus p squared. You all agree with that? Let's look at D. Sine 388. This is over 360, not so? So I subtract 360 from that. What do I get? 28. What is sine of 28? Sine stands for opposite of hypotenuse. So it's going to be P over, which is P. E. Tan of negative 332. So that is a negative angle. So what do I do? Add 360. What do I get? Tan of 28. And tan of 28 is P over the square root of 1 minus P squared, as we calculated it the other day. People, any confusion here? Huh? No. So for homework, I want you guys to do exercise 7.10. I'm going to do, there's 4 sums out of that exercise. I'm going to do 2 of it tomorrow, okay? Just to ensure that you guys understand what's happening here. Alright. People, enjoy the rest of your day. Good morning, class. 200.